Well, I'm happy to be here. Always love coming to BYU. Love seeing students and seeing what you're up to and hearing about all your plans. It's so exciting because not too long ago I was in your shoes doing the same exact thing, wondering what was going to happen in my future, where I was going with all this. Really not a clue, honestly, what I was going to do, just kind of winging it all the way. And you know what? One thing or another works out. The Lord blesses you, and things will work out, that's for sure. But today I want to talk about some of the principles around making sure things do work out and making sure, you know, it doesn't go too badly or it's too rough. But inevitably, those rough times that you hear about, the horror stories, so to speak, is what it is all about. That's why that's kind of the theme for today, the trenches, you know. I want to, different from the other presentations I've done, usually I've come in and talked almost exclusively about SolutionStream. That's our consulting company, and I will spend some time on that. But I want to talk about a couple other businesses that I've done in the past few years and what I've learned from that. Because what I want to make sure that you come away with today is a pretty clear picture of what it's really like in the trenches, so you know what to expect, that you can see from an entrepreneur, everything's not rosy, everything's not easy, everything doesn't go as planned, not by any stretch of the imagination. And I know, I listen to a lot of the lectures, I read all the stories, and sometimes you can get this feeling that everyone else, or a lot of other people, they just get funded easy. They have brilliant ideas. It just goes out, and bam, they got customers and funding, and all of a sudden they have a $16 billion buyout. Holy cow! In 2 years, that kind of insanity kind of gets a hold of us. Those are so far outliers. I wouldn't even worry about them. If it happens to you, phenomenal. But the real work is just the day-to-day stuff that happens, and that's what I want to talk about today. So, with that in mind, see how this works here. Next slide. So, in the trenches, where the experience comes from is almost 20 years now as an entrepreneur. I've had enough time to really try a bunch of different things. Some have been wonderful successes that we'll talk about today. Some have been horrific failures. I'm going to kind of be a little transparent for you today so you can see how that is. I built 5 businesses that you could actually put an LLC on, lots of others that maybe didn't even get born, so to speak. And then in those companies, I've played a variety of roles, from day-to-day direct involvement to angel, passive investor, startup CEO. It's just fun kind of writing your own future, trying to decide, what do I want to do in this company? Who do I want to be? I get to make up the titles. When you start it out, that's what you get to do. So maybe to start, I want to get to know a little bit more about who's here. This is the tech lecture, so I'm curious, how many of you are aspiring entrepreneurs? You think that in the next, months or years, you're going to start a business, you want to be an entrepreneur? Is that why you're here primarily? Okay. And then of those same people, maybe, you think you're going to start a business, how many think it's going to be something tech? Like you might do a mobile, an app, a website, something that's going to involve kind of the latest and greatest technologies. Because some of those, okay. That'll help me gauge how technical I could get. It's the tech lecture series, so we could get quite technical, but we'll just kind of follow that. So the first question, about being a founder, a startup CEO, whatever you want to call it. Like I said, all those glorious titles doesn't really matter. It just comes down to the bottom line. When you start, you're it. You can give yourself whatever title you want because all of this holds true. It's unbelievable amount of work to do it. It's unbelievably complex. There's an unbelievable amount of pressure, a lot of risk, but the reward, that's what we're after usually. And in your business, however you're planning on setting it up, that reward can be whatever you decide it's going to be. Some people want money, that's what they're after. Some people want freedom and lifestyle, that's what they're after. Other people are trying to make a difference in the world and be a force for good. They're trying to do a humanitarian cause or a non-profit. All wonderful. So whatever floats your boat, that's your passion. You've got to be signed up for that. But you got to be aware of what this is all about here today. So that's kind of what I want to talk about. So there's 3 companies I want to talk about today. The first one is SolutionStream. That's the main one. That's the one I always talk about. And then we'll talk about two others. I'll give you the names as we go. So then we'll draw some conclusions from all of that, all right? So SolutionStream, we started that one probably about 17 years ago, me and my business partner, Jason. And it started, like in the bio, with the basic need. I'd worked in IT departments in software capacity for a couple of companies, and I just saw how crazy, ridiculously hard it was to deliver software on time and on budget. Like all these systems, all these programs, mobile apps, if you will, websites that people were building, nothing was working right, nothing was getting done on time, companies were getting frustrated. So I just thought, hey, Jason, let's just go do this on our own. We can do a better job than all of that. And you know, what do you know? 15 years later, we have more than 100 employees, multiple states, and it's been cool. A lot of challenges in it. These are some of our clients here that we currently do work for. Ancestry, Extra Space. A lot of these you've probably heard of. They're from around here. BYU, Idaho. You heard of that one? Rio Tinto's the mining company. A couple of VCs. Western Governors. We do a whole bunch of work for online education, and for BYU too. We've done a lot of Blackboard work. Do you guys use that system? Uh-oh, it's gone. No, it's been a couple years since we did Blackboard work. But so anyway, the way we work with all these projects is we have consultants, and we bill out on an hourly rate for these clients' projects. So clients come to us and they say, look, we've got to build something crazy difficult, crazy fast, and can you please help us? So we're the people that's kind of like the SWAT team. We get the tricky projects, we get the stuff that's hard to do, that they can't hire enough people to do. I mean, have you heard how hard it is to find developers around here? I don't know if some of you are trying to start something up, trying to get a developer. That's our business. We have a recruiting department that just hires developers. That's all they do, all day long. And they do phenomenal at it. So that's kind of a little bit about SolutionStream. We build mobile apps, website apps, back-end systems and databases that basically power a lot of these companies. And it's a good spot to be, honestly. We have medium to large-sized companies, so we can charge nice rates. These tend to be longer projects. They're in a big variety of technologies. So if you're in Java, .NET, PHP, all the mobile languages, that's what we build for these companies. Some of the reasons that I got started in SolutionStream, here comes some kind of the more personal details. When I was working for a couple of these other companies as an employee, I started noticing a couple of themes in my life. I look back on that time as being an employee as absolutely critical, you know? Some people think that you should just start off and go straight to be an entrepreneur. And maybe, you know, I'm not telling you you got to feel your own way through this. But for me, it was really important for me to become an employee for a while. Number one, I learned how all these companies work from the inside. That was critical. I could see what was going wrong. I could see how to approach them as a provider of services and how to win their business. A couple of the things that were going on there was I became a really bad employee. What I mean by that is I was always a maverick. You know what I mean? I mean, I was always pushing the boundaries of what normal employees would be doing. I guess I was trying to be entrepreneurial inside this container. And I wasn't liking all the boundaries I was finding. I would go to my boss and I'd be like, look, everyone around here just kind of wastes a lot of time. What if I got the same amount of work as done as them, and I could have, you know, a couple extra weeks of time off? HR says no. You know, what if I can do XYZ and earn a lot more money? HR says no. You know, there's all of these rules and guidelines. And so then I started writing software of my own, get this, on the side, so in my free time at night, and then I sold it back to my own company, to the HR department. They loved it. So they were buying my software, but when IT department came back around and said, who is this? Where did this software come from? Why are we installing this on thousands of computers? Who's the vendor? And they're like, oh, he works for us. It's Travis. Boom! I got called into this conference room. I'll never forget it. There was like 10 directors, and man, they had it out on me. Because apparently, as an employee, you're not supposed to do that. Nothing I did was unethical and certainly wasn't illegal, but it definitely pushed the boundaries of what a company wants their employees doing. I did it on my own. I did it at night. That company ended up using my software for free. Well, I guess that's an okay outcome, right? But that was one of these symptoms of me being a horrible employee. So I kind of started to see this trajectory of like, I kind of got to do my own thing. But the frustration level that built up after doing that at a couple different companies, it was enough frustration, we'll call it like fuel, to get me out on my own and to succeed. So if you kind of feel like you're not quite motivated or you're not quite there yet to start your own company, go work as an employee. Go do something out of the box and see if you like it. If you love it, hey, you might be in the right place. If you're hating it, man, you're building a really strong case for doing what you really want to do. So don't be afraid of that. I think that's wonderful experience time to learn that, especially while you're young. You've got lots and lots of time to figure all that out. So that was one dynamic that was going on with SolutionStream. And honestly, that kind of fueled the success. Early on, I was up at, I got my MBA up at the U. It was good. It was okay. We'll just leave it at that. But BYU definitely rocks. And up there, we had this teacher from BYU come up. They did this teacher exchange. And so I had this entrepreneur teacher come from this program here and come up to the U to teach. I thought, well, that's an awesome setup. And a couple of things that he said in my class up there just really stuck in the back of my mind. And it actually has kind of shaped the way I started my whole entrepreneurial endeavor, the platform, if you will, to do a bunch of other exciting things. And I think our approach is a little bit non-standard. What he said was, first off, I already kind of commented on it. He said, number one, go learn on someone else's dime. And so that's why I actually went out and worked for these companies as an employee. I had my MBA. I was ready to take over the world, you know. MBAs, they get big salaries. Let's go work, you know, as a consultant and make 6 figures right out of college. I had all these big dreams. I actually ended up taking a very low-paying job at this first company just because I wanted in there, and then working my way up really quick. And that actually worked great for me. It was kind of like I said before, the experience I needed to really get going. The second thing he said to me was that he always wanted, and this just hadn't occurred to me before, because I just thought about, you know, what's a career, what are you supposed to do? He said he always wanted a business that would make money while he was not at work. Simple phrase. He just thought that it would be a great thing if he could be at the beach and it made him money, or if he could be at his home with his family, or just doing what he wanted. It was just always producing money and giving him the freedom that he wanted. And that just stuck in my head. And from the very beginning, we've just designed SolutionStream, and we've put the right people into the company so that it can operate like that. And me and my business partner, we can take the time off we want, we can do other side projects and other startups and things that you'll see, but the company runs healthily and it runs well without us now. And so we've been able to kind of phase out a little out of SolutionStream, if you will. So that's probably enough about SolutionStream. As we go, if you have any questions, jump in. I will save some time at the very end for the main group for questions, and then obviously there's the cozy little group at the after it's over. The second company I want to talk quickly about here is called D1 Sports. This one came about later. You know, we'd already been doing SolutionStream for many years. We had money in the bank, so to speak, and we were ready to do something really entrepreneurial. We were ready to go out and take over a whole new market segment. We had a business partner who was coming in who had some experience in this space. And so as angel investors / board of advisors, so we had a much closer role than just a typical angel, I guess. We started this company called D1 Sports Nutrition. It was targeted at high school and collegiate athletes who aspire to be D1 status, and we were going to provide all these custom formulations on 6 or 7 nutritional products, from protein drinks to electrolytes to pre-workout, post-workout. We had all this science. We hired an advisor and a science committee to really analyze and prove that the formulations that we did were correct. I mean, we really went after it. We put a ton of money into this. We had a roadmap. We had a beautiful pro forma. You know, have you seen the pro formas that just go up and up and up, like every month? First you make $1,000, then you make $10,000, then you make $20,000, then you're making $50,000 a month, and it just like goes up forever. And you're thinking, you know what, in 1 year, I'm going to be retired on this. Well, the reality of it is none of that happened. This goes down as one of the tough but necessary learning experiences, even later in life. You know, this is only a couple years old since we've kind of shut it down, but it did not work. We went through 3 pivots, and every time, you know, we had a set amount of money that we were going to invest in this, and every pivot took a big chunk of that money, and then all of a sudden more, and all of a sudden you're out of gas, coming up on the end of the runway, and you don't have enough runway left to get off. And that's a really hard situation. But let me tell you this, the things like this that go badly, I guarantee you they're going to affect your future more in a positive way than maybe the things that go well. Because this kind of pain really teaches you unforgettable lessons. You need to fail at stuff. And not always small. I mean, it's great if you can fail small, but I kind of think if you fail small, you didn't really feel the pain of it. Man, let me tell you, this cost so much money and effort on us. We learned, and we will never make those mistakes again. So to kind of summarize a little bit about some of the mistakes we made on this one, now we look back and it seems so obvious. 20/20 hindsight. You're like, duh. You guys will think it's obvious. But let me tell you, when you're really close to a problem and you're really invested in wanting to make something work, you can get blinders on your eyes. You can start thinking you're smart. Smarter than you are. You are smart. A couple of the key mistakes we made here. Number one was Jason and I, we didn't get a co-investor. You know what I mean by that? We didn't get someone else totally objective and totally independent of us to come in and fund this deal. We were so hungry for it. We thought we had the right setup. We thought we're going to just take 2/3 of it. So it was a partner of ours, and then Jason and I, 2/3 approximately. Well, it's maybe more 50-50, but we just thought, this is great. We want all the equity. But what were we taking on also all of? The risk. And we were assuming that we knew how to attack this market. That leads me to my second point. Not only did we not have an independent voice telling us that this was a fundable, intelligent investment, but the second mistake we made, which was fatal, was that we invested in something that we didn't have not even profound, but even kind of minimal experience in. Meaning, what we knew was software. We knew technology. We knew how to deliver services. That's what we do. We've been doing it for 12 years now, 15 years. What's this? This is a distribution nightmare. This is pure distribution. This is online web sales. This is sports nutrition and a product that you formulate and put in a box and put a label on it and ship to somebody. I mean, it's so different from SolutionStream in so many dimensions. We had no idea what we were doing, but we thought we were smart guys. But really, what we didn't know is we didn't appreciate the risk that we were taking. We didn't know enough about this business to even know how serious our risk was. So we've learned that lesson.
Where was I? That's D1 Sports. We spent a lot of time and money on that and learned a whole lot. And we're coming back to it. Now we won't make those same mistakes, but we're much more aware of the possibility of making all new ones again, okay? Every time you learn something, you kind of process it. You can still make mistakes, but you might make different ones. But we're on better alert now, okay? So the third company I want to talk about is the most recent one. This is so fresh that we just launched this a few months ago. This is a brand new startup called Planplicity.com. Has an awesome website, if I don't say so myself. This one targets companies like us. So, you know, you'll draw some conclusions here automatically. We looked at the way we were running our own business, and we've been doing our own business for 15 years, and We back on? Super, thank you. Doing pretty well at it. In fact, we would go out to all of our competitors and companies that were similar to us and look at how they were running their business and kind of walk away a little self-congratulatory, going, we're doing better than they. So with all of that in mind, we kind of said, what are we doing that's making us operate so much more efficiently than most other companies just like us? And we embodied that process, that whole approach to our business into this software. And over the last 2 years, have now invested a whole bunch of money with a development team, a marketing and a sales team, a website team. And I mean, it's a full-on startup to get this thing launched. We have some initial customers on it now. And we are in the thick of learning. So I mean, I wish this was like a couple of years down the road and I could stand here, maybe I'll be back, and I can give you the download if you're here. No, you shouldn't be here in a couple of years. That would be a really bad outcome, wouldn't it? It'll be a new crowd, but you can catch up with this on YouTube, possibly. But in a couple of years, I'll be able to process, with hindsight vision, what we did great and what we didn't do so well. But right now, as far as I can see, we're doing okay at it, all right? So like I said, I was going to be transparent. This is a tough startup that we're right in the middle of. And I'm the startup CEO. It was kind of my idea. I went out to my business partners and I said, hey guys, you trust me? This is how we operate our business. Let's build some cool software. We'll sell it to the masses. And they went, thumbs up. We've spent 2 years developing this software because it was horribly complicated, much more than we anticipated, to really dial in the customer experience how we wanted it. We spent twice as much as we originally planned on our own software. And that's with our own teams, because we know how to run them. So we did it as cost effectively as you possibly could, but we're still over budget on our own stuff. And as we went out to our market, and we're doing the lean startup on it, okay? I did the first year of this company. How many of you are reading about or in a class or anything about lean startup? That whole approach. You guys know what I'm talking about? Some do. Okay. We operated this whole startup based on all those principles. Customer development, market-driven development, small iterations, small tests, fail fast, everything that encompasses. I was a student of all of that, just like you are right now. I read the books. I looked up online everything that I could find out about it and did my best to run this company just like that. And you know what? It's really, really hard. I mean, I did all the tests that I would think needed to be done to validate my market as we developed this software. I brought in a half a dozen early customers to be my customer development-driven partners who bought into the value proposition and who would wait for us for like an entire year to deliver all the rest of their software. And tried to follow all of that. And I had mixed success. Now, that's not anything against lean startup. I still think it's great. I think you should still be doing that. What I've learned from that so far is it's hard to take a real business problem and fit it into that little box that book and some of those series kind of represent, which is fine. But the only way you're going to figure all of that out is to do what we're doing, and that's to go out and charge into it and try and do it. You got to chart your path. You got to go do it. So what I've learned so far is my tests were too big. I thought I was doing small tests. You know what I mean by that? Like testing my market and going out and saying, all right, customers, we've built this. Will you buy it at this price point? I mean, that's a test, right? When we'd call dozens, hundreds of customers, and we'd get data back and process it, and then we build another feature. I guess what I'm trying to say is we got far enough down the line into that process that we got really committed to our software to the point to where we're so invested now, we can't stop. Does that make sense? So I think it's a great idea. I still think we're going to succeed, and we're going to get that hockey stick growth that we want in a SaaS-based subscription software package. But we're still looking for that market fit. We are still
challenged currently with trying to find out what our customers really need and want out of this solution. Yes?
So, D1 sports nutrition, are there any lessons that you learned from D1 sports nutrition that you're using as you run Planticity now?
Yeah, number one lesson, thank you for that, was we built something that we understand profoundly. I don't think anyone can, in fact, I've sat in meetings with the industry experts about resource planning, which this really is. I can lead the discussion because I feel like of all the things we've learned over 15 or 20 years of running SolutionStream, I'm an expert on consulting, on providing services, and on this aspect of resource planning. So we go to the best in the market about how they are doing this, and our software blows them away. That's the number one thing. So we have something that's really cool that companies really want. We are now in the process, and again, we spent more money to get to this point than we wanted to, but we're getting co-investment in it now because we need a lot more money than we have right now to get this launched. And so in order to do that, we're going to go get some outside investment, which means outside investors are going to need to buy into this whole dream that we have. But I'm pretty confident that that will work. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I have a follow-up.
Absolutely.
HR is such an interesting space to be in. Is this kind of in the HR space, you'd say?
It kind of touches the HR space, but it's really in the operational space. This targets firms and agencies, and it targets the partner or the CEO or the COO who runs the company. That's like a firm or an agency like ours. It doesn't run out of the HR department, in other words.
Okay. Do you see any strategic partnerships as being valuable to building a company like this?
Absolutely. In fact, that's our play. You saw it right there. We wanted to do, because this is the dream, maybe, I don't know about you, I think the coolest thing would be to come up with an original idea like this, launch it out into the market, and just get all this organic growth and sign up. Unlimited potential, margins are huge. I mean, who wouldn't want that, right? We tried the pure play startup, and we poured a ton of money into sales and marketing and kind of just brute force, picking up the phone, doing SEO and PPC campaigns, turning on the internet machinery to get people on our website, and it was kind of slow going. It's hard to get noticed out there. It's hard to get customers to jump on our site, and that's because this is a super complicated system and problem we're solving. So we need to be embedded more in a system like to use a general phrase, like an HR system, and make this part of that package. Does that make sense? So that's Planticity. Like I said, we are in the thick of it and having a fun time and trying to pivot and not run out of runway and get this thing launched. So general lessons learned. Number one, understand what drives you. If you're going to go out and you have aspirations to be an entrepreneur, to be a founder of a company, to be that startup CEO, think about all those unbelievable risks, challenges, time commitments, and rewards. And know and understand that if that's what you're after, make sure you're signed up for that. I found, like I alluded to it with my first, what made me leave employment as an employee and become an entrepreneur, I found out that's what drives me. The passion and the freedom of being able to do my own thing, not have all those boundaries and boxes put on you as an employee, that's what fuels me. I just love that freedom. And so once I connected up the dots for myself and got the right partner, got the right company behind me, and the right service and the way to process all of that, we started making great money. But that was a side effect. Do you see what I mean? I wasn't out there to make great money or to become rich or something. I wanted to do something that I was passionate about. It just so happens that what I was passionate about, people will pay a lot of money for too. It's a nice combination. Another thing is to take smart risks. All right, you see that guy there. Warren Buffett says risk comes from not knowing what you are doing. And I hope I've made that point clearly here. In D1 Sports, we really did not know what we were doing. In fact, we were so blind to that, we didn't even know the amount of risk we were taking.
With Planplicity, we have a much better idea of what we're doing. Yet, it's a whole new dimension of delivering these solutions to clients that we're not used to. And there's a lot of risk from that. The first risk I ever took is to leave employment and your safe paycheck and the confines of a company that provides you all the security. It's great. And to start on my own. And the way we did that with SolutionStream is working crazy hours late at night. I started working on projects on the side so that I had income coming in from another source along with my employer. And at some point, we had enough projects and enough lined up that we severed that umbilical cord. We jumped out there and started hiring and running our business. We never took on $1 of debt. We never took $1 of investment. We bootstrapped the whole thing. We had really lean months at the start. We had really scary times, just like you'd expect. But it was still a smart risk because I didn't risk my house, my future. I'm not saying you shouldn't ever do that, but be smart about it. Don't bet the whole farm on something that may not work. One more picture. That guy took a risk, didn't he? Remember that? Hey, let's do a little drive-by up in Italy, a little cruise ship drive-by. Third point is to be the best at something. To really succeed in a business, you need to invest the time. There's the 10,000-hour rule. You've probably heard of Malcolm Gladwell. I love that whole section of his book and that whole concept. 10,000 hours is 2,000 hours. Does that number ring a bell? If you're an employer of a company, an employee, or 8 hours a day times 5 days a week times as many working weeks there are in a year, that's 2,000 hours. That's 5 years of full-time effort. That sounds like a lot. But you know what? In your mid-20s, late 20s is not that far away. And if you invest that time, you can be the expert in something starting right now. And college is great to be a general education about a lot of different things, even once you've picked your major. But you need to become an expert in something really specific and really valuable, and also that you're really passionate about. And you don't have to rush to pick that. If you search for it, it kind of will even find you, okay? But be on that quest. Be searching for something, be looking for that thing that just, for me, this sounds really geeky, but the programming aspect, I got all business degrees, okay? They didn't even have an entrepreneurship program when I was here. So I went all technology, but my business degree is MBA. But you know what kept me up at night, literally, for fun, and on the weekend? I was coding. I was building stuff. I built a home teaching database before the church even had one, and had my ward and stake using a VB, a Microsoft Access-based home teaching program that had tracked every companionship, every report. I look back on that and I go, why did I spend hundreds of hours building that thing for no money? I love the gospel, and I really wanted to further the work too, but mainly that was just fun, honestly. I was just having a blast coming up with something and building it. And that actually has just proven true all these years. I'm always finding something really exciting, really floats my boat. It's fun to learn, and I just think, you know what, in a few years of really focused effort, I just might be an expert in that. So it's never too late to start that quest of picking something and getting an expert in it. Kind of segues into that next point. Always be learning. Never, ever turn that off. In fact, in college, at the university, you go to graduate school, that's all great. Know how busy you are. You should be reading and learning all kinds of things, even now, but especially later. Don't ever turn that off. I know people that are well into their careers, they get 10 or 20 years into it, you kind of just get on autopilot. They never read a new blog, really. They never pick up an industry magazine. I am always searching for, what's the bleeding edge of knowledge in a particular space? Where do you go and how do you find out who knows the most about this particular problem and go right up to the edge of exploration, I kind of like to think that in the early days, I might have been an explorer and being the guy that says, you know what, they say that's round. They say it's flat and that you'll fall off the cliff if you build a boat and go out there. Let's go find out. I think I would have been that kind of person to go charging out and finding out the edge of human knowledge. I like that. So always be learning. Audiobooks, podcasts. I download
all these talks that happen here in the lecture series and listen to them all the time. And a lot of these guys are my friends, and I've heard their story before, but I always get something new out of it, something I didn't know, something that helps me in my business today. So never turn that off. And then lastly, if it stops being fun, change it up. Don't ever get yourself in your career, whether you go as an employee, which is great, start your own thing, don't ever stop having fun. If you're not having fun and you're not getting up in the morning excited to do your work, you better do a drastic change. You better do an intervention on yourself and get to a point to where you're having a blast at what you're doing. I mean, I get up every day. I'm super stoked for everything I'm doing. I love to go to work. I love to go home. I don't work insane hours. I have lots of time with my family. But man, work is a blast. I have so much fun with it. I look forward to it every day. I wish I had double time. I wish I could do twice as much as I'm doing right now. It's just not possible, and have a little bit of balance in life, you know. But be sure you're having fun. So that's 4:15. We could talk some real tech stuff for a minute, or we could do Q&A. Maybe I'll just give you a little flavor on this, because a few people were going to build websites or mobile apps. This is just, take it from someone who's been doing this for 20 years. Pro tips. Okay, so if you're going to build software, this is what we tell our clients. Some of them appreciate it, some of them believe us, some of them don't want to be our customer when I tell them this. First of all, software is expensive stuff. And if you've never gone down that road of building something like a mobile app or a website and building software, you're in for a bit of a learning curve. I mean, our average projects, to get a modest amount of work done for a company and really just kind of get a minimum viable product out there, is usually between, and this is just the software, okay? And I'm not talking all the other things that need to happen to get something launched. Just the software, easily between $100,000 and $200,000. That's like bare minimum to really get a good system up and running. So the systems that you frequently use, that would be an app on your phone that's pretty solid, it has a bunch of pages and it connects to a database and emails everybody else that wants to be using the app and takes a picture and sends it somewhere. Every one of those apps costs a company $500,000 at least. And some of them cost those companies many millions of dollars. So just be aware of that, okay? You need to be ready for that, and having, early on you'll find co-founders and other people to help build this stuff for cheap. But at some point, whether it's your employees that you hire or a company like ours you hire, you got to be ready to pay for good stuff. That brings me to the second point. The immutable law of software development is you can have it good, fast, or cheap. Pick two. You see where I'm going with that? You can have it good and fast, and then it's not cheap. You can have it fast and cheap, and then it's no good. Or you can have it good and cheap, and it'll take forever. It's just the way it is. You can't slice and dice that any other way. So when customers come to us in a big rush, we'll just tell them right out the door, happy to do it. We'll move really fast for you, and it's going to be good, because this one doesn't ever move for us. We won't engage customers if we can't do it good. So these are the only two that go, that move around. Tough choices. I actually don't even remember what that was about. We'll move past it. Get multiple good estimates. So if you're going to go out and get something built, don't do this to my company, please, because it costs time and effort. But call up my competitors and ask them, tell them you want to build something and get them to give you a quote and an estimate. Because they'll give you a pretty good idea of how much you think you need, that they think you need to spend. But get 2 or 3 of those. You can also go to Odesk and elance.com, define your project really, really clearly, and you'll get 15 or 20 quotes from different companies out there. Be careful with all that stuff, because it's just information at that point, so you spend money. But it's good information to get a lot of different quotes, so you know you're getting a good deal. And then rely on good tech advice. Don't charge off and become a software company or build an app without an advisor or someone who's been there a lot of years. You'll make all the same mistakes everybody makes. You'll spend a lot of money unnecessarily. You'll blow it up. You'll want to rewrite it after you spend all your money, just like a lot of people do. And you can avoid that if you get good advice. And then last, the software of it, this is speaking from the software guy. I don't even think that's the hardest part. The hardest part of all this business is the actual concept, the product, getting it to customers, getting them to like it, getting it priced right, getting it sold, marketed. To me, that seems like much harder than the software. Maybe that's just because I come from a tech background, but be prepared that the software of whatever you're building is probably less than half the money you're going to spend in it. The rest comes from everywhere else. So that's just real quick my kind of history, companies have started, and I wish you the best. Go out there and make a lot of mistakes and have a blast doing it.